In this video we are going to work through fieldwork examples stage by stage. This will be useful as a comparison with your own fieldwork. If you haven't been out yet, you could use this video to help plan your own fieldwork. Just a reminder that for AQA GCSE Geography, you need to complete fieldwork in a physical environment and fieldwork in a human environment. And one of the fieldworks must include the interaction between physical and human geography. First of all, we need to decide upon a question or hypothesis that provides a reason for our fieldwork. There are a few simple guidelines for devising a question for a geographical inquiry. A good inquiry question could be one that you would really like to know the answer to, is linked to the geography that you have studied, could be investigated in a particular fieldwork location. You could also base a geographical inquiry on a hypothesis rather than a question. A hypothesis is a theory or idea that you want to test. For our human fieldwork, we are investigating regeneration in an area of Leeds city centre. The question we are going to investigate is, to what extent has the regeneration of Eastgate had a positive impact upon the locality? We must consider the geographical theory and concepts underpinning this inquiry. We will use 4 concepts to support our fieldwork: regeneration, environmental impacts, economic impacts, and social impacts. We need to explain why our fieldwork location is suitable. Eastgate in Leeds is a good location for fieldwork because there has been considerable redevelopment of the area in recent years. Leeds is one of the UK's 10 core cities. The investigation area is accessible and big enough to accommodate a large group of students in a reasonably safe environment. However, we must assess the potential risks of fieldwork in this location and how these risks might be reduced. Here is a list of some possible risks. We must consider them all on the day, but in preparation for the exam, make sure you are able to describe how you will reduce the risk of 2 of them in detail. For our second fieldwork, which will also include the interaction of physical and human geography, we are visiting the coast to investigate the question, does the hard engineering interfere with natural processes in Bridlington? 2 key concepts that we will use are hard engineering and natural processes. We need to select, measure and record data that will help us to complete our chosen inquiry, including primary data. Primary data is first-hand information that comes from you and people you have worked with. We should compare it with secondary data. Secondary data is information that another person, group, or organisation has collected. Secondary data is very important in providing background information and a context for the inquiry. The hard engineering at Bridlington North Beach could be interfering with natural processes such as weathering, mass movement, erosion, and transport of material by the sea. But how would we investigate this? We need to identify and collect data using appropriate sampling methods. Ultimately, we must be able to describe and justify our data collection methods. We can measure the profile of each side of the groins in North Bay to help us understand whether longshore drift is being interrupted. We can also take photographs of the hard engineering at intervals as we move along the beach from north to south. A short questionnaire posed to every 10th person as we walk back along the esplanade will provide additional data. We will need to decide upon appropriate ways of presenting our results. There is a range of methods available to choose from. Not only do we need to select and accurately use appropriate presentation methods, we also need to be able to explain how and why we use these techniques. In Leeds, we can conduct a land use survey of the Eastgate area that is being investigated, looking at, in particular, high order and low order shops and services. Has the new development attracted additional high order shops and services? To present our data, we can prepare a thematic map showing different categories of land use. Has the new development attracted more pedestrians? We can conduct pedestrian counts across the area at the same time for 5 minutes. This evidence may be presented in a pedestrian isoline. Describing, analysing and explaining the results is an important element of fieldwork. We can annotate our photographs at Bridlington to explain our findings. The groin profile measurements can be shown in back-to-back bar charts. We can use appropriate statistical techniques to analyse the data and explain what we have found. For example, we could calculate the mean height of the groin exposed on the north and south sides to show if longshore drift is being interrupted. Where possible, we should establish links between datasets. It is possible to compare the thematic map and pedestrian isoline in our regeneration investigation in Leeds city centre. We can compare these datasets and make links. Anomalies in the fieldwork data should be identified and explained if possible. The conclusion is almost the end point in the inquiry. Remember, we are referring back to the main aim of our investigation. First of all, we summarise our key findings. Describe and explain what we found out about the natural processes and hard engineering in Bridlington. What was the most important evidence? Now we answer the original question. Does hard engineering interfere with natural processes in Bridlington? We can also comment on the wider geographical significance of our study. Similarly, in our human investigation, we describe and explain our findings about the regeneration of Eastgate in Leeds. We should consider what it was designed to do and why. Think about the economic activity it might encourage. Explain how it works and whether, in our view, it is successful. Now we summarise the economic impact of the regeneration, the social impact of the regeneration, and the environmental impact of the regeneration. Describe to what extent the regeneration is having a positive impact. Describe to what extent it is having a negative impact. Now we draw our conclusion. To what extent has the regeneration of Eastgate had a positive impact upon the locality? We haven't quite finished our fieldwork at this stage. There is one very important stage left, the evaluation. This is where we consider any problems of data collection methods, identify any limitations of the data collected, suggest other data that might be useful, and the extent to which our conclusions were reliable. Here is a structure we can use to help us through this stage. Let's begin with the urban fieldwork. For each of the data collection methods, we start by identifying the strengths and weaknesses of the technique. We then consider how these affected our results. How did this then affect our conclusions, and particularly our understanding of the key concepts? In this case, regeneration, social impacts, environmental impacts, and economic impacts. What would we do differently next time? And are we able to explain why we make the changes? How would these improvements increase the accuracy of our results and conclusions? Finally, can we suggest other data that might be useful? We do this for all techniques used. In the urban fieldwork, there were 2 techniques. We can use this same structure for our physical fieldwork, where we had 3 collection techniques. The evaluation is a very important stage, and we can learn a good deal about fieldwork by completing it. And that's it! I do hope this video has helped you understand how to conduct successful fieldwork. There are other videos about fieldwork available on the Geography Juice channel. Thank you for watching.